Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining in today. And we would be discussing a brief about anxiety and its management. And I would be taking you through some of the questions which you can see up there as well. I would like to begin with what is anxiety and what can cause anxiety. This is a common term that has been floating around. So, just to take off any kind of doubts related to it, so just imagine, I think in a simple way, I would say that anxiety is a reaction to stress. It is a reaction to stress when our coping methods are no longer able to manage the stressful situation that we are currently in. And I give the analogy of a perfectly balanced seesaw, okay, with our coping strategies on one side and the our stressors on the other side. If the stressors are more than the coping strategies that you have, the balance may not be there. And one of the side effects we see is anxiety. So, anxiety can happen when people tend to anticipate the worst in situations. It can happen when, like I spoke about, how the coping strategies are not equipped to deal with the stressors that you're currently facing. When you find that what you used to rely on before is no longer working, right? And it's very overwhelming. The situation is really overwhelming. Um, and it is a tendency to anticipate the worst or anticipate doom or to predict doom, saying that something really bad is going to happen. And in the process, people might tend to worry a lot, they might tend to overthink a lot. So, I'm also connecting a little bit to the signs and symptoms of anxiety as well. I think three different age groups are um, displayed on the screen. With younger children, usually what I find is with the lack of communication, right? Children do not know exactly how to label and say that it is anxiety. They do not know what is anxiety. So you're likely to see more of behavioral symptoms in children. For example, in school students, you could see difficulty with focus, concentration. It could be memory disturbances, and even academic decline. With a slightly older age group, you could find a little difficulty with it could present in different ways. Like I said, with a younger age group, it could be more behavioral. Social anxiety is one of the domains in which it can present, where there is apprehension about meeting crowds. There could be performance related anxiety. One of the populations that was shown, in addition to school students, is also the working sector, where you could see performance related anxiety. There is always a fear about your performance, or will I be evaluated as good enough? Will I meet certain criteria? Will I make the mark? So when there is these constant thoughts that are happening, that is a symptom of anxiety. I would like to differentiate between there are physical symptoms of anxiety as well as cognitive symptoms of anxiety, and there are psychological signs as well. In the psychological, you could have worry, there could be apprehension, there could be a tendency to anticipate the worst. With cognitive, you could have difficulty with focus, concentration, memory. Emotional side, you could also have some signs of depression. Low mood symptoms can also be there when there is anxiety, because you're in a state where you feel that only the worst will come to pass, or you are not able to manage that overthinking phase that you are currently in. So this could be how it is experienced emotionally. And then we have also somatically or physically felt, as stress headaches is something that people commonly report, right? So stress as of such is experienced in one of these two ways. Anxiety is a side effect of stress. So when there is too much of anxiety close to exams, for example, then you could have stress headaches. There could be body pain, there could also be stomach related concerns. and tremors. There could be nausea, throwing up. These are some of the physical symptoms that can happen when the anxiety is a little excessive. Now, not all the symptoms of anxiety is, or I would say, anxiety as of such is not a problem. We all need a certain level of anxiety to function in day to day life. If I'm not anxious about my work, I would not put certain effort into it. If you're not anxious about your exams, you would not prepare for it. So a certain level of anxiety is necessary for us to function optimally. If I want to get to work on time, I should be anxious about, say, the traffic or getting too late, which would help me prepare for that situation better. So, while a certain or an optimum level of anxiety is required, excessive anxiety is not helpful. It is more energy, more thinking than it is required for that particular situation. So I spoke about anxiety, about how it is useful. We also have the ability to identify what actually triggers our anxiety in order to better deal with it. I usually, when I work with clients, we categorize the kind of events which triggers their anxiety and see what is it that is common amongst them, right? Let's say maybe every time you are expected to perform, when you are being evaluated, that creates an anxiety, and then we look at the reason why it is causing that particular anxiety. So when we are able to identify a trigger, right, it is, we are able to better prepare for the situation. If I know that um, uh, in certain performance situations is when I feel anxious because I feel I'm not confident enough, then confidence building is something that you can exclusively focus on in order to get better results in whichever domain you are performing in. So when I'm talking about how to deal with it, um, we spoke about cognitive anxiety, we spoke about psychological, emotional anxiety. There's a physical sensation related to anxiety as well, each of which can have a different management plan. So, if you're able to relate to any of the symptoms that I'm talking about, right, optimum anxiety is okay, but when it occurs for a longer period of time, right, let's say there is a particular concern we call as generalized anxiety, which is a tendency to feel anxious about anything. It could be related to academics, it could be related to your work, it could be related to your social relationships, but there is a general anxiety um, about the worst case scenario in all of these domains. So this can interfere with our day to day functioning. I think one of the questions we will be looking at, and I will bring in these topics then and there, is also to when do I know I need help? When do I know that I need to seek professional help, or when do I need to consult with a psychologist, with a mental health professional? Is when these symptoms start to affect your day to day functioning. Memory disturbances, or focus and concentration, your performance, your productivity at work, if that is going down, if it's declining, and you find that the coping methods that you regularly use are not able to deal with the stressors that you are currently going through, then it might be a need to reach out to a professional to help give you a different perspective to that particular situation. Because when you are inside the problem, I often say, when you are inside the problem, you always feel that you have limited choices. So with a mental health professional, you are guided to see that same concern from multiple perspectives, so that you are able to generate more choices as to how to address anxiety in this particular case. So how counseling helps is, it helps give you a very third person perspective, a distant perspective from the problem. It helps give you more choices that you can work with, a kind of a clarity of thought, where you can distinguish between how to manage your emotions, how to manage your thoughts, how to deal with your physical symptoms. It helps to give you those coping strategies, or equip you with those coping strategies that or equip you with more coping strategies that can help you deal with anxiety. So generally with um, overthinking, so overthinking is one of the common concerns we find related to anxiety. Now when there's excess of thoughts, and this usually tends to happen when you are idle, or the time period just before when you get to bed. It can be a time period when you have less work to do, when your mind is drifting off, or overthinking might happen very close to the time when you feel like you are going to be evaluated, or that event that you are most worried about. So when there are too many thoughts, right, remember that these thoughts are most likely to result in worst case scenarios. Overthinking is not about the best case scenarios. Very rarely are we thinking about, oh, what if I get a promotion, what if I get a bonus salary. Those are things that will not give us anxiety. It's more or less related to, what if I fail in an exam, what if my friend stops talking to me, what if I lose students, what if my clients don't come back to me, what if my boss does not recognize my work, or what if he shouts at me after my presentation. So it's usually the worst case scenario. Now when you have this overthinking, the speed of thought process is really fast. So by the time you start with one thought, it goes on to another thought, and within like 2 minutes you've already got a couple of worst case scenarios out there that results in your cognitive, your physical symptoms of anxiety, etc. So when there is so much of thinking that is happening, slowing down is very difficult. So we usually encourage that to manage or to deal with that anxiety, you start writing down your thoughts. Documenting your thoughts slows down the process, because simply said, you can't write as fast as you think. So the speed at which you are going to be thinking is also going to start coming down when you write. Also, when you write, what you write is more concrete than just having the thoughts in your head, which can connect to something completely irrelevant or bring up past memories. Remember that your mind is like, this is it's like a box of a lot of things that are both wanted and unwanted. So as long as your thoughts are up here, you cannot prevent unwanted memories or thoughts or past experiences from coming through. So documenting your thought really helps with managing anxiety. Practicing relaxation, practicing gratitude is something also that helps, because it tells you that I'm mindful of the good things that are going on in my life right now. Relaxation techniques, you don't have to be trained in something full fledged like yoga or certain intense meditative techniques, but simple breathing techniques, and there are plenty that is available online, which you can practice just before situations that you feel that might stress you out. Because if you already go into a situation or an event anticipating the worst, then you might less likely put your best foot forward in that situation, or you might hold back from taking risks. You might hold back from trying out new experiences because you fear something or you're anxious about something. So documenting what is it that you are actually anxious about, what are those thoughts, if you're able to identify those triggers, then that will help you prepare for those triggers a lot better. Whether it is about improving your social skills, or your, I spoke about confidence, or whether you learn to be you need to learn to be more assertive, um, or is it that you need to actually prepare for your exam a little better, or leave from your house a little earlier so that you get to somewhere on time, or whether you get feedback from your boss so that the mistakes you made once will not be repeated. When you are able to structure your thought process, the overthinking is less likely to go out of hand. To the question which says how much counseling is going to help, and will it really help get rid of anxiety? I think what counseling does is equip you with skills to help you manage anxiety, so that when it does happen, you would know what to do. That you don't have to go running to a professional every time that some certain things get out of hand or certain things get overwhelming. Counseling will help equip you with certain skills, certain management strategies, and we will generally professionals will also take you through certain scenarios or certain events that you are fearing, to almost like practice those strategies as well. So depending on the therapeutic technique that is followed, therapists sometimes even practice during the session, so that when in real life you exhibiting these skills will be a lot faster and easier. So whether it helps, I wouldn't say it gets rid of anxiety. That depends from client to client, from person to person, but it can definitely help you manage your anxiety. It can help you look at something you thought was a mountain and make it look like a smaller bump along the way. Perspective changing. If I'm able to look at a weakness as a strength, if I'm able to look at anxiety as a strength, because if I know I'm anxious about something, I know that something is not in place, and if with the working with a mental health professional, you will be able to identify what that something is and get management strategies to stop fearing that situation, right? So I hope I have covered all the questions here. We have one more which says, with the in this world of commercialization of treatment, how do I know whom to trust? Right. So we definitely have a lot of mental health professionals, and with the pandemic, we also have a lot of them having onboarded their practice. What I would generally recommend is, one, when you do connect with a mental health professional, it is completely okay to check their, ask them for their qualifications, right? At least to ensure that they have a minimum of a master's degree in in psychology, in psychological counseling degrees, psychological clinical degrees, at least a master's program. Students are not permitted to take clients, but professionals or individuals who have completed their masters, that's very important. You can look at the number of years of experience that they have, or the institutes that they're associated with. Now with different websites like Practo, even Google has reviews that you can read up about a particular professional. You can get on a call with them, or even write down the queries that you have prior to connecting with them, such as, I often find people even hesitate to take consultation because of the charges associated with it. And rest assured, we have counselors who operate with varied, like a sliding scale. So you could find counselors who could even take a session for as low as 300 rupees per hour, and it can go up to 5000 rupees per hour or even more. But you can connect to a professional as according and comfortable to your budget. But definitely look at their qualification, the number of years of experiences, the institutes that they're associated with. You can even ask them the method that they follow. When it comes to practice, there are different therapeutic techniques. You don't have to know any of that in depth, but a grief counselor may not be able to help with a child and adolescent issue. So we have different counselors who specialize as per age groups, who specialize as per topics like grief counseling or substance use counseling, etc. So you could ask them the domain of work as well, and always clarify these doubts before you start therapy. It will definitely help you get some clarity about whom to trust and whom not to trust. So I really hope these questions or this discussion has helped you. If there's anything else, you can always feel free to connect with us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable advice and